Welcome to Everyday Money Matters on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. It's such a beautiful Wednesday, and it's another day for us to talk about personal finance and financial literacy. My name is Adu, and this is Everyday Money Matters on Lagos Talks 91.3, brought to you in partnership with our friends at Nairametrics. And just to give you a brief overview of Nairametrics, just remember that Nairametrics is your leading destination for business, financial, and economic news, and of course, information as well. Content that they bring to you will be breaking news and analysis and coverage of capital markets, money markets, financial literacy, and even personal finance. So anything money, just go to nairametrics.com. Speaking of nairametrics.com, I have part of the money team here with me today in person of Olumide Adesina. I call him the finance man. Olumide, good morning. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good morning. How do? Happy Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, happy Wednesday to you too. Looking all bright and very crypto.
Yeah.
Good to have you here. So
Yeah,
if you have questions, you can go ahead and send them to us. Olumide was here and is very competent and vast in this areas, and I'm sure he'll be able to answer your questions. So send them to us on WhatsApp 0809-234-5913, 0809-234-5913. So join the conversation and let's get talking. However, there are people who sent in their questions prior to this particular conversation. So I'm just going to go straight away and respond to these persons. Olumide, once again, good to have you on the show, okay? Someone is asking a question here. I think we'll just dive straight to it from this particular point. It says, what does the MPR 11.5% mean for the economy?
Okay. Thanks, Adu. What really happened some hours ago, the Monetary Policy Committee that happens to be the Apex Bank, that group of members that handle interest rates and other monetary policies left the status quo at that rate. And the reasons why the status quo was left at that rate was the fact that, the economy is still surviving from the worst havoc from the pandemic, and a lot of businesses were hurt. There was disruption in financial markets, so it wasn't so surprising that that rate was left, and the reasons was not far fetched. We're having, in spite of the fact that inflation is already going at 7.33% and other monetary challenges, the Apex Bank decided to leave that rate because they felt that the economy still needed support. So what really means is that, yeah, the cost of borrowing is still the same. The yields were not moved. Looking at the bond market, that's where debt instrument and other debt assets are traded, was still left unchanged, showing that investors are not shaky about that move. But looking at the direction about the MPC members, it shows that in the future rates might change, because when inflation is going at that rate, they need to start tightening monetary liquidity, because what it means is that there's so much liquidity, and that's why rates looks like it's going high. But the Apex Bank mentioned something that was very critical yesterday, and they spoke about the fact that the rising cost of the surge in inflation, food inflation, was not just as a result of the liquidity in the system, was the uncertainty about security. Don't forget that there's this growing herdsmen crisis. The Boko Haram issue in the north is really disrupting farming activities. And if you understand how farming plays a role in Nigeria, about 60% of the Nigerian economy is bent on agriculture. So such disruption has really affected the cost of food. And a lot of Nigerians spend their budget on feeding. So that really caught the Apex Bank very nervy. So I think going on, they will keep supporting, like they affirm their support on agricultural production, pumping more funds into that area. So I think it all means that the status quo still remains, but it's going to change in future. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Olumide, for that. There are more questions for you, so I'm sure you are ready for all of us. This is another one coming in, and similar to the first one, then the money issues and investment issues. This person is asking, saying, Hello, money team. What are NFTs?
Okay, NFTs are just simply, and it's in the crypto aspect, a new form of crypto assets, and they are non-fungible tokens. That's the abbreviation for it. And simply, what they are is that they are unique digital assets. They are not in changeable like other like what you see in Bitcoin, meaning that you cannot transact them like Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's not necessarily transferable like that because what fundamentals behind this is that they are created based on unique derived assets. So I'll give an example. For example, a couple of days ago, Jack Dorsey sold his tweet. He digitalized his tweet asset, and that is a kind of signature. So the owner of that asset has a kind of unique signature that he can put on the blockchain, and based on his personality or the asset, he commands a buy. So he auctioned his tweet for about 3 million, close to $3 million, and he donated that to an African fund. So the power of NFT is that it gives the artist, it gives those original producers the old of what they produce. And these days now that things have gone digitalized and we have COVID-19 around, you don't need to have an artwork just in the museum. So you can digitalize your artwork, Adu, on the blockchain, and that's really what is really trending now. So a lot of things are being digitalized now, artworks, tweets, posters, books, whatever. But the technology is pretty new, so we are seeing a lot of overvaluation in some prices. You see some unreasonable assets going too expensive. But I think what is really catchy about it is that the fact that it solves counterfeiting means that the original owner of that work can always track, and the number of that asset. So I think it's something that is very evolving and it's trendy right now. Yeah.
So maybe I'm just going to put my voice in NFT.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You can just put it on the blockchain, and
So
who knows whether somebody
anybody
will
who wants to
sell.
listen to
Yeah.
my voice will pay me
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
joking.
So,
All right. So there's another question here, and this one says, "Good morning. I'm one of your followers, and I appreciate you. I don't know if there's any index fund in Nigeria that one can invest in, and if there is, please, what are they, and what is the best way to go about investing in Nigeria?"
yeah. Uh, that's very alarming because naturally we have so many. In fact, index what index funds are basic. Index funds are kind of funds that you track the underlying assets are tracked with index. So, for example, the NSE 30 is a kind of index that comprises of the top 30 stocks by market value. That's a kind of index. If you are looking at tech stocks, looking at brewery stocks, so there are so many kinds of index. And the ETFs, if you are trading Nigerian stocks, you can go through an investment bank. There's so many that are out there, Cardinal Stone, Afrivest, Stanbic, what have you. There's so many out there, that you can trade all these ETFs from. But if you are this kind of sophisticated investor and you really know your onions, you can trade the index fund through the spot market. And when I mean the spot market, you can trade it through exchanges like the Bloomberg terminal and stuff like that. That's for foreign markets to do because most of our ETFs, we still have ETFs too. Also, Nigeria has ETFs because of late I've been seeing ETFs on the Nigerian stock exchange platform. So you can also trade ETFs on your system. So index funds are something that is it's just that the person doesn't really understand what index funds are. So the underlying assets are indexed. There are so many kind of index, like I said, Euro index, the NSE, the medium cap, low cap, so many out there. I do. So I think the listener has so many options there. All he just needs to do is speak to his financial advisor or with the Nametrics website. We have the list of mutual funds that have such precedence.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If you're just joining us, this is Everyday Money Matters brought to you in partnership with Nairametrics, and you're listening to Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. I have with me the money team, and somewhere in the start of the show, Ugodre joined us on the conversation. Ugodre, good morning.
Hey, my man. Good morning. I
Good
was
to
just
have
thinking
you.
of. I was thinking of how we're going to digitize, AMM. How do we do that? Do we digitize AMM and just like put it on that blockchain? You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
never know.
never know, right? Good to have you here, Ugo. And Ugo, while you're here, a lot of people are asking questions. I think you might just be, in the best position to answer. So probably just chip in one or two. So the first one is, shall I say, slightly political, or I don't know. But it says, "Hello, Money Team. I saw $1.5 billion the government is creating to rehabilitate the Port Harcourt refinery." He says, "Is this a wise money move by the government?" And this is a question that I think you probably might just want to answer, Ugo.
How is this a question for EMM? My God, come on, guys. Yeah. Are you good? Do you want to share of the money?
Well, yeah, well, I don't know why they want to do that, but that's the question. Okay, while we're thinking of that, this one also asks, has the CBN given up on controlling inflation rate? If that is the case, why?
All right, so let me try and respond to the question. So the $1.5 billion on a refinery, is it a good idea? There's an article on Metrics today, I think this morning, where we try to address that question. However, for my own personal opinion, I'm not so sure it's a good idea, and that's because we have for years tried to do all sorts of turnaround maintenance on the refineries or repairs of the refineries, and it never really has come to anything. I do spent millions and millions of dollars, and we haven't really gotten anything out of it. People are, if you listen to some critics, they tell you that you start to hear of all these white elephant projects when a government is at the tail end of its tenure. So we're 2 years away from the end of this current government. So perhaps critics are saying that this is, some people in government already positioning themselves to, do the usual. So I mean, but if you unpack that and look at the project itself, why are you going to spend that kind of money in a refinery? Especially when these are refineries that we all know hardly work. Okay, and this is not the only refinery we have. Yeah, there's the Port Harcourt refinery, there's a Warri refinery, there's a Kaduna refinery, and of course, and then there's a Dangote refinery just down the road that is also coming up, in the next 2 or 3 years. So it doesn't look like an important project. I do understand why refineries are very important or very strategic to the long-term, economic stability of Nigeria. I do, and that's because if you look at what takes away our dollars, it's mostly importation of petroleum products. It sucks a lot of our dollars, and when it sucks a lot of our dollars, we end up paying for it through devaluation or depreciation of the naira. And how does this directly impact you? Directly impact you because the prices of goods and services, like you all know, is going up. Not necessarily because there's demand or we all have excess money. It's just because of factors like increase in oil prices, which also has a attendant effect on the amount of petrol or oil that we refined products that we import, and then devaluation of the currency itself. So from that point of view, you might think that, look, maybe it makes sense to spend $1.5 billion fixing the refinery when we probably spend that much defending the naira, right? But the point is that, are you sure if you spend that money, they're actually going to fix that refinery? And even if they do, the refinery is going to work. So that's the problem I do, and that's why I don't support it at this stage. Now, to the other question of has the CBN given up on inflation, I think Olumide kind of brilliantly touched on it earlier on, and the answer is actually yeah. I think the MPC meeting of October or November, I'm not too sure of that month again, was where the CBN did mention that their policies weren't geared at reducing inflation anymore, and the reason was very clear that a lot of the inflation that you're seeing now are not really due to their own making. It's not something that you can change or effect by monetary policy. For example, the CBN policy does not affect herdsmen crisis. The CBN policies does not affect logistics issues. The CBN policies does not affect the gridlock you have on the ports, right? The CBN policy does not affect farming or famine rather, or farmers being able to bring their products down south or across the country, or the CBN. So those are the things. Yeah, the CBN policy does affect forex, but it's not them. It's not because they are not the ones that are in control of oil prices or the amount of petrol that the refined products that we import. So that's why, as far as they're concerned, they really don't think that there's anything much monetary policy can do at this stage. So that's why they basically seem to have given up on it. Adu.
All right, thank you, Ugo. Very, very well said there. Appreciate it. As always, well, if you're just joining us, welcome. This is Nairametrics in partnership with Lagos Talks, bringing you Everyday Money Matters. It's a great show. You don't want to miss it. Every Wednesday, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, we talk about everything personal finance and financial literacy. And just in case you were listening and you loved the ideas and the thoughts that Ugo and Olumide were sharing, well, Ugo has a special newsletter that he sends out to subscribers. And there he gets to share recommendations, market beating stocks, particularly helping you to invest with confidence. So if you want to go to the stock market and you need somebody to hold your hand and guide you along, the Nairametrics Stock Select newsletter is what you need to subscribe to. And so what you do is you go to the website, I'm going to call it for you shortly, and then you subscribe. And what you stand to get is you get at least 2 stock recommendations monthly. You get the monthly buy, sell, or hold recommendations. So when should I buy? When should I sell? When should I hold my stock? How to maneuver the market to your advantage. You get exclusive market intelligence on stock and the market in general. And lastly, you have succinctly written analysis of company results and corporate action. So if a company says we have XYZ profit, what does that mean to your stocks? The Stock Select newsletter from Nairametrics would help you make sense of it all. And Ugo is the one that personally does this because, they call him the money man. So if you want to subscribe to it, just go to ssn.nairametrics.com. That's ssn.nairametrics.com, and you can subscribe to it. And also, just in case you joined us in the middle of this show and you're wondering, oh, I really love this, I want to get to listen to it again, that's not a problem. Go to YouTube and just look for Nairametrics on YouTube and you get to find this video all over again. That's for those of you watching online and listening on radio. It's youtube.com/Nairametrics. So let me get back into the question, guys. Olumide, this one is saying, sorry, I didn't listen to your program last week. It says, what's the rate for treasury bill investments now?
Yeah, first of all, the listener needs to understand that there are restrictions on treasury bill assets for individual investors. So he has to be an institutional investor if I'm giving that kind of information. First of all, yeah, we are seeing an uptick in rates. The 91-day goes about 2%. The 182 goes a bit higher, and the 364 is now 7%. But what really investors are doing now is that in the past 1 week, from week to week, the rate has gone by 22%, showing that a lot of investors are selling the older ones for the newer ones because yields are going up. So we are seeing yield activity rising. And, that's not surprising. That's really what's affecting the Nigerian stock market. For months to months now, the market has been on a bearish downturn as investors are looking for consistent income. So we are seeing increased activity in the treasury bill market. And just recently, the auction that took place by the Apex Bank showed an increase of about over 350%. I'm talking of subscription. So it tells you that in spite at which we have this risk look a bit lower than what is happening in the inflation rate, investors are still keen on consistent income. Treasury bills give you consistent income when you look at to other investments, albeit if as a retail investor, you don't have access to these things directly.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you're listening, that's what to have in mind for the person who asked the question. Still on the questions, this one is, I think Ugo might be wanting to answer this. It says, hello, money team. Has the CBN devalued the naira? It Says, I'm seeing conflicting reports online. Ugo, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. The answer is, a blatant no. But let me explain why there was a bit of confusion. So there was a story that Bloomberg ran on Monday evening, and they were basically quoting or citing an interview they had with the Minister of Finance. But unfortunately, I think that they kind of misconstrued, her comments, and so she was saying that the government currently uses the NAFEX exchange rate as a basis for conducting its business. And so, based on that, Bloomberg kind of, interpreted that as Nigerian government now basically adopting a flexible exchange rate. And that's because the NAFEX, like you very well know, is market determined. It's not the CBN basically determining that rate. But that in itself is not a statement of policy change. So the CBN still maintains multiple exchange rate. They have the NAFEX rate, they have the fixed rate, they have the SMEIS rate that they use. They also have diaspora rate. So they have multiple rates. If you go to the CBN website, you will still see 379 naira to the dollar, which is the rate that, for example, they used to share money via FAC. But for some government transactions, and I'm suspecting maybe if you're going to pay custom duties and you want to convert to dollars, it's likely going to be the NAFEX rate that they're using. That's kind of like what she's alluding to. So it's a very gray area. You really can't. Sometimes it's easy to misinterpret things like that. Because when the minister says that, look, we adopt NAFEX rates, then you kind of make it sound like you basically have adopted a flexible exchange rate. Now,
Right.
but it doesn't really mean that, that in itself is a holistic government policy. It's not, and I think that's what the CBN was trying to clarify here. But at the end of the day, I think it's just inevitable that at some point you're gonna have all the exchange rates collapse into one. You can't just have multiple exchange rate anymore.
Exactly what I was
You're gonna
going to
have
say.
it collapse into
Because,
one.
it might get confusing. Diaspora rate, NAFEX, fixed rate. Well, you don't even know. How do you calculate which one? For instance, I just made a payment for a subscription of one of these international services. And when my bank sent me my deduction, I'm wondering which rate did they use?
Exactly. That's the thing. But if you get money from outside, if you got a foreign remittance and somebody sends you money, um, I mean, just go to the bank and you withdraw it. Oh, by the way, Adu, did you know that if someone sends you money from the US right now or from Europe,
Yes.
all you need to do is give them your Nigerian account number, your bank account number, not a domiciliary account number. Just give them any bank account number that you have, and they will send that money. And when they send that money, you go to the bank and withdraw it in dollars. So they automatically create a domiciliary account for you. That
Incredible.
easy. Yeah, and then you go and then you withdraw the dollars, and they even pay you 5 naira extra on it, and then you can sell the dollars on the streets.
Are you
We tried it
joking?
at Nairametrics and it worked. Yeah, we ran an article on it last week. So yeah,
Incredible.
that's the Naira for dollar scheme. So it actually does work, and it is
Okay.
working.
Wow. Thank you, Ugodre. Always great to have you talk about these things. Well, before you go, guys, there's one more question here. I'm not sure. Maybe Ugo or Olumide might want to answer this. I'm not sure. Well, it says, my dad bought shares for me in the 90s with Zenith Bank. But I speak to you now, I haven't received a dime from them as dividends. They used to send us some letters of financial reports many years ago, but I have since left that residence. Funny enough, 2 years ago, I saw some of these letters in my old files and just got rid of them. Your show today just made me realize that I may be having some cool cash hanging somewhere. What do I do?
Of course, you have some cool cash. I mean, Olumide is going to explain to you how you can get that dividend. But my man, You had Zenith Bank dividends for all these years that you haven't been cashing in. What have you been doing? Come on, just go get your cat. I mean, but be rested. You got to be sure that your dad actually, kind of like
Put it in your
made you a beneficiary. Now
yeah.
you got to be able to go through all that motions before you can get that dividend, right? Because if you do get the dividend, it's just going to go into your dad's account, right?
Oh,
And then maybe that's how you can get it if your dad now tells you to go, maybe writes you a check or something like that. But how can you get that dividend? I'll let Olumide explain that to you.
all right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Olumide.
thanks, Ugodre. I think it's very straightforward. First of all, it has to show that he's a beneficiary, just like Ugodre said. And what is very important is that it not simply needs to walk to the Zenith Bank registry, bring those certificates, the lead documents proving that there's um, a share in beneficiary. There's a move from that asset to his own holding. So within 48 hours, because there's something similar that just happened. Some of our readers had certain issues like that, and was so surprised that GT, in the case of GT, and this was handled within 40 hours. So what really happened is that the time the share was issued, was a paper error, and now things have gone digitalized. So he needs to document bring proper documentations to prove all these things. And yeah, this thing will be pretty handled. So he just needs to go to Zenith Bank's registrar. I don't know, I was trying to look at the address. He just needs to go. They're in Lagos. All he just needs to work there, bring his documents, proof of his ID and stuff like that. And all those things will be worked on. Then all dividend that he claims that has not been remitted will all be sent back to him. Yeah, if
Mm.
all those documents are verified. Simple. It's very
So
straightforward. Yeah.
you need to get all the documents, so the certificate of shares,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the lectures.
Even if you can't get all the certificate of shares, if you can't get all the certificate of shares, there's what we call there's this thing they do on the SEC side where you search, they search on your behalf, so they know the amount of funds that is unclaimed. You understand? But you just need to get the basics. Yeah, the proof that you're a beneficiary. That's a very strong proof. Google just said. Then you need to show your own documentations too. Then the certificate. At least you have to have the basics. Then they have to verify all those ones, then that will be done. So the search usually takes like 4 to 5 working days, depending on that's where the problem is, the search. But I think everything will be handled within 2 weeks. But they will verify and do all those things with you in the next 48 hours. Then the search and all those things, then the amount will be put. So I think all those things are pretty straightforward. So all you just need to do is go to the Zenith Bank registry. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Olumide. Appreciate you joining us today. And Ugodre, thank you for joining the conversation. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you guys next week again. And maybe I'll start to receive me some dollars so I can have my domiciliary account.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
You too. Bye bye.